Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Great Futures Forge. I'm your host and CEO of Boys and Girls from Newark, Ameer Washington. And we are here with a Newark native, tech entrepreneur, and an aspiring politician here in the city of Newark. Please introduce yourself to people.
Jhamar Youngblood, Newark native. I'm excited to chat.
Cool.
Yep.
So we want to start with some fun stuff first because whenever we talk to an aspiring politician, the politician or anyone involved in public service, it can get deep. And so we want to learn who this gentleman here is and, let him tell you a little bit about himself. And we're going to ask Jhamar, what's your favorite food?
I'm not a foodie, man. I'm not a foodie at all. Yeah.
Everybody's got to eat, though.
Yeah, I know. But it's like, I would say like Chinese rice and broccoli.
Yeah.
You know? Or like, I don't know, like maybe like rice and beans with like oxtail sauce or something.
My wife loves oxtail.
Yeah, like I like the rice and sauce combo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I've never heard anybody say that.
I'm not a foodie. Like I would eat the same thing every day.
Really? So you don't have a go-to comfort food?
Nah.
You don't have like I'm watching TV, I'm relaxing at home, guilty pleasure?
Nah.
Ice cream?
I mean, I eat it all, but I don't like.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's not one that I'll be like, I'll take that. Like I can't think of anything. Like I tried to think of something too. It wasn't anything that just came top of mind.
So let's switch gears. I think you got to have this one.
Mm-hmm.
If you could swap places with any movie, TV character, cartoon, or otherwise, who would it be?
That was a weird question. I like. Again, I try to think of some of these because some questions I got beforehand, and I'm sorry, I can't.
Did you watch Dragon Ball Z?
I did, but I can't just imagine living my life.
One day.
I can't imagine it. It's just too uncomfortable for me to think about living my life through somebody else's perspective. I don't know. It's tough for me. I thought about this. I tried. And I like a lot of movies. I tried. I just was like, no. I was like, nah. I was naming people and I was like, nah, it'll be weird.
Okay. So a song that gets you hyped.
A song that gets me hyped. This is so cheesy, but I have to be honest. It'll be like, so a couple of years ago or last year, whatever, when Kendrick dropped like Not Like Us, I probably listened to that song so many times.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I listened to that song so many times.
The side of the fight you stand on.
That was a good song. It was just, I listened to it so many times. Like,
very diplomatic of you, dude.
Yeah. It got me out every single time. So it's pretty cheesy, but that's a song like this.
It was a high impact song. There was a lot going on with that. We're not here to get into that.
Yeah, we're not talking about it, but I got to be honest.
So if you had a superpower, what would it be and why?
If I had a superpower, I think it would be some way that I can help people change their perspectives on whatever situation that they're going through in life.
Where did that come from? Why would
just because I'm aware of how powerful thoughts are, what you think turns into emotion, those emotions turns into action, and action turns into a reality change.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm aware of that. It's just, I've learned it's kind of difficult for people to grasp that immediately. Like it sounds so sensible, but
right, in practice, human emotion.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
Biases and your past starts creeping in, and I think self-perception is a huge thing to deconstruct for people because a lot of people don't self-assess. And I talked about that in the last podcast. Like that's probably one of the most difficult things for people to do. So yeah, I find that I agree with that. That's a great superpower. So something that makes you laugh no matter what.
Watching how some politicians could sway audiences. Let's just say that. And they're just like, wow, they did it again.
Power.
Yeah.
Power, persuasion, motivation, inspiration.
Yeah. And
that was used Coke.
My grandmother used to drink Pepsi, so I'm going to have to say Pepsi.
Okay. Apple or Android?
Apple.
Favorite place to vacation?
New England.
One place that you'd love to go that you've never been?
that I would I hear a lot about Japan and how innovative it is over there. So I would love to go. We'll see what all the fuss is about. Or what the hype is about, not fuss, but
Yeah.
yeah.
If you could meet one person dead or alive, who would it be?
I'll say two. Malcolm X or Fred Hampton.
Okay. What does Newark mean to you?
Home. Newark is the only place in this world where I feel like my true self. The only place. And I've lived in a few other states, but I had to come back so I can feel like myself. I feel like I was losing myself in other places.
Interesting. So what would your best friend say about you? They would say Jhamar is
audacious.
Let's unpack. Why would they say that?
Because, to be honest, it's my mother. So I told you I grew up and I went to Louis Spencer right here, and my mother would send me off by looking me in my face and saying, Jhamar, you could do anything you want to do in this world. She's been saying that since a very young age. So once I got the resources to do certain things, I'm like, I could do that. So I made art, I made music, I made apps, I designed clothes. So
you believe her?
Yeah. It went past a belief. It's like, I know it, I just know it. Cause it's like, there's no pass or failing with trying. It's like, I could do it.
But a lot of people don't think about it that way. Like, people say you can be whatever you want, you can do whatever you want. But like, how did you find the, I guess, ability or sense that was true? Like, was it a particular moment in time, or did you say, that makes sense to me and I'm just going to run with it?
No, think about it. I literally could do most things. Like, she didn't say, Jhamar, you're going to be the best. She said you could do anything you want to do in this world. Lucky for me, I do have taste. I do have some intelligence. So when I do things, it makes sense and people like it.
Sure.
But, just do it. Just try it. So like that's the message I got.
Yeah. So you can play basketball, but you're not an NBA.
I could have made the NBA, to be honest. Yeah, like I was recruited for basketball since middle school.
I heard about that.
Yeah, I just didn't. It's just I didn't have a black coach, like never in my life. Probably like one summer I remember having a black coach, or like just like a consistent black coach. But the idea of just a white man yelling at a bunch of, most of the time there was poor black children. It just was like, it always made my skin crawl. So. Like I'm sure if I wanted to continue down that path, I could have got it done because like it was set up for me to do so. But I just started rebelling since a very young age. I started rebelling, since like high school. I just started rebelling in my own way.
Well, you're not in jail, so you didn't.
Yeah. It's average. And I used it to get an education, and all that. So I got what I needed to get out of basketball.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing we used to tell kids here is like, and I used to coach, and I told kids, and I think I might have told the story in the podcast before, but I said, look at your friend next to you, look at the other guy. None of you are going to the NBA. And they were all flabbergasted. And I told them a story about my cousin who 6'8", played at Tech, played professionally overseas, didn't make the NBA, but I was like, he has all the physical characteristics, the pedigree, having won state championships in JUCO, going to the Sweet 16 and the tournament, and it's like he didn't make it. Like, that's how hard it is because he was the second best player behind someone that went to the NBA in high school. It's like, and sometimes I don't think young people understand that, but he got a free education, which is a huge accomplishment given the, student loan that people are, living with. So here's a question that kind of helps us transition into the next segment is, if you had unlimited resources to change Newark, what's the first thing you'd invest in?
I think it would be more sports infrastructure in our city, even though we have a lot. I think it just would be more because I think Newark has the potential to be the amateur sports hub of the world. Trains, planes, roads, JFK, we have all these fields, Shakur Stevenson, Shaq. Yeah. So we have all the resources we need to literally have everyone from all over the world flying in to our city to watch amateur sports.
Right.
That's not a priority right now. So if I had the money, I'll make it a priority. I just pay people like, this is what we're doing. I think it's important only because our youth needs something to do. And I'm not saying sports is the end all be all, but it does promote healthy living. You know, like you're getting them active. It's like a social gathering. There's life lessons there. You know, there's I just think it's been so great for me, and I could only imagine how much it can help other kids. And I'm talking all types of sports: rowing, fencing,
Yeah.
golfing. We have all that stuff here.
Golf course right in Weequay.
You know,
I was talking to somebody about that. Where it's been here forever, and I really didn't find out until I was an adult that it was there. Yep. And I think the perception that golf is so expensive that it's, you know, inaccessible to young people in urban communities like Newark or other places where people aren't necessarily as affluent as other. Right here in golf, I mean, you know, almost everywhere has a public course. $50 for the weekend, right? So I would definitely be 100% behind that kind of infrastructure because I think it is here. We have a lot of leagues and things that have happened, but there definitely could be more.
I went to golf camp at Weequay.
Really?
In the 90s.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, I got to talk to people. I knew we had a golf program here, but, you know, Ms. Banks comes back, I'm going to be talking to her again. So I'm going to ask you one more question, and then we're going to get into...
Oh, wait. Also, can I ask something?
Sure.
With the money? Public housing as well. I got to add that.
Okay.
I got to add that. So the sports infrastructure and public housing.
Okay.
Yep. I can't forget that. I had to say that.
Before I get into my line of questioning here, is there anything else you want people to know about you that they haven't learned in the first segment here?
Real quick, I always tell people this. I'm a nerd, and I say that proudly because I like to geek out over information and new topics. So I'm a nerd, and I love my city. So that's where a lot of my passion comes from. And a lot of people may not understand that, but that's where it comes from. Me just acquiring all this knowledge and wanting to put it to work.
Okay. So how did Newark shape who you become, right? We said you're a tech entrepreneur, you're back here, you run for political office, you're running for political office again. Like, how did this environment shape who you are?
So let's start with the fact that damn near every man in my life was either a drug dealer or drug addict. So I didn't have consistent role models in my life. I was just surrounded by chaos a lot of the times, but I did have a mother that just believed. My mother believed, and some of the things I've experienced in my life, I just don't think children should experience. But I'm grateful because it kind of woke me up really early and let me know that life is real. I'm talking like by the age of 12. I'm
right.
Whoa, this is real. This is not a game. Life is real. So I think that perspective shift just helped me make more intentional and conscious decisions when thinking about my future.
Interesting. So did that, I'm assuming, because you went to Dartmouth, which is one of the Ivy Leagues, did that experience in working hard and focusing come from that experience in Newark that led you to be able to study there?
No, because when I was younger, there was two things I wanted to do. I wanted to go to the NBA. I wanted to go to the NBA. I wanted to work on Wall Street, and I wanted to go to an Ivy League school.
Okay.
So
it was just a thing.
It was just a thing that I was like, I gotta do it.
Yeah.
You know, so it wasn't only because I used to watch some 90s movies, you know, like it was like in the 90s, everything was like all these preppy schools and all those Wall Street movies. I was like, wow, that's how you make it out. Again, it all came out to like making out and me looking to see what else can I do in a society besides sports or entertainment.
So how did you balance being an athlete and performing, you know, academically here while you were in Newark and then going off to college?
I don't think it was a balance. It was just like, I woke up today, all right, let's keep trying. And then, but always thinking about it. Then those thoughts just led to like those small actions that I don't think I was consciously aware of, but I just thought of, like, again, I love thinking. And like, that's why I say I'm a nerd, because I really love thinking. Even when I was a kid, I used to drive around the city with my mother and just look at things and just have ideas on how to fix things in the city since a very young kid. So I just love thinking. And a lot of times I could be home alone and not say a word for like 3 days. I have so many thoughts. So
you went to college and then you had an experience that led you into starting companies, building applications. What pushed you to that endeavor? And then conversely, what brought you back here?
well, that started in high school when I first saw Mark Zuckerberg on TV. I was in a class and he appeared on CNBC or something. I was like, what? It was just this right dude. It was like he made a website. It's worth at that time, I think they said it was worth like $10 million.
Yeah.
I was like, what? I was like,
I will applaud you because I already remember this because Zuckerberg and I are the same age. And I think I told the story before on the podcast, but Facebook came out when we were in college. And I was using Black Planet at the time.
I also like Planet too.
Watch that and like be the same age is like complete contrast in my life versus what you.
And the guy from Black Planet was from Princeton, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was a black dude from Princeton.
Wow.
Yeah. So I saw that and it just was like, again, I'm thinking of what are the ways to like just make something out of yourself. Again, my granddad and my uncles and the men in my life were legit drug dealers. Like my granddad caught a RICO charge, so he was like he caught a kingpin.
Oh wow.
So he was a kingpin, and I just knew I was like, no, I'm not doing that.
Right.
You know, so anything that I saw in society, because again, my mom like you could do anything. So I see this guy Mark Zuckerberg, I'm like,
right,
I could build websites. So that's again, I started thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then I first went to Monmouth University for undergrad, and I went to Dartmouth College for grad school.
Got it.
So I went to Monmouth University for undergrad where I studied finance, but I'm meeting people that said, oh, I know how to do websites and stuff. It's like, oh, really? Let's chat. And then I befriended those type people. And that's really how I got my introduction to that whole tech lifestyle and landscape.
So I have a question that leads to the next question that I asked as a part of that previous one is, so you go to Monmouth, go to Dartmouth, go Ivy League, right? You, in a sense, you've escaped the environment, drug dealers, family members being arrested, charged with RICOs, convicted. And when we were growing up in particular, it was always about getting out of them. You've done it. You've started companies, you're building applications, I'm assuming making some money, could live anywhere you want. I don't know exactly what year did you come back, but why come back here at that time?
I always say this joke, and I hope people laugh. Like, I was a tech entrepreneur, and I had a startup, and I'm looking to raise money. And first, I was living in Boston, tried to mingle with those people, and they just it just didn't feel comfortable to me. And then I went to Brooklyn, and I lived in Brooklyn for a while, and trying to do the whole New York City thing. And again, it was like whatever. So then Newark, at this time, they were trying to become the next great tech hub. This was 2015.
Okay.
And all right, so here's the joke. The joke was like, you know how people say, oh, you're like a really small fish
in a big pond.
And like, that's how I felt in Boston, in Brooklyn, and New York City. So in Newark, I thought it would be different. I thought I'd be like a big fish in a small pond. And I ended up being a really, really small fish in a really, really, really small pond. So what brought me back was that vision that they were promoting of this next phase of Newark. And I'm like, all right, let me go back. And that's what got me back here, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to really transition because I know now that the mayoral election is in May. Just ran for city council, and now you're running for mayor. You came back here as a tech startup looking for investment to run your company. Why the transition to politics? I mean, as people say, there's no money in politics.
Yeah. So again, I told you I used to always think. So my grandmother used to work for the Sharp James campaign, where she worked his campaign office, which is, I don't know if it's ironic, but so his old campaign office is right across the street from where I live now.
Okay.
So I remember being in that office a lot. So that was the first time I was aware of it. And then I told you I would go around the city just having ideas. But in grad school is when I knew that I wanted to come back and run for mayor. And this was like 2013.
Okay.
And it was only because I've seen the audacity of all these mediocre white men. It was just like, they was just so full of themselves. And I'm just like, I just had to rethink my life. Like, why are these people so full of themselves and I have so many doubts? So I'm just like, nah, I gotta step my audacity up.
Okay.
And that's what, and like, so like, that's the thing I learned from being at Dartmouth is that it's all about audacity, man.
Yeah.
And like, that's all it is. Just like on those Ivy League campuses, it's just people who think that they're going to go out and be the next great world leaders. Like they truly believe that. You listen to some of these conversations,
Yeah.
and I'm like, why the heck do you believe that you about to go do X, Y, Z? So I said, okay, I'm going to go for mayor. And the first thing I did in 2013 was take out Twitter ads like Jhamar Youngblood, mayor of Newark. 2020 is what I said.
Yeah.
It's like 2020.
Okay.
And the response would be good, right? So the responses would be good. So even when I was making music, I was always just rapping about it. So I was always, again, thinking about it
Right.
and putting my small affirmations out there.
Okay.
And then it wasn't until LaMonica left to go to Congress and there was going to be a special election. And I was like, if I ever were to do it, this is the time. Because I didn't want to do the Democrat or Republican thing.
Okay.
I knew I had to do it my way, right?
Okay.
Independent grassroots. So the timing just worked out where she left. Yeah. And I knew it was going to be a special election. And I knew that special election, 6 months after that special election, was going to be the mayor's election.
Okay.
So it was all just, I want to say it feels like a calling from my ancestors on how everything just worked out.
Played out from a timing perspective.
Yeah.
So,
and timing is everything in politics. And,
right.
And again, while I was in grad school, my program was called Globalization Studies, but I was studying specifically how local governments operate around the world. So I came back with so much context on how other municipalities and cities are solving their problems.
So I want to ask a question about that because I had the subsequent question that was going to be the question, but you said something that's very telling. What is it that you would do differently as mayor that's not happening now that you think is essential to Newark's progress to become in full the city that it is becoming? Because there is a lot of development, there's a lot of investment happening in Newark. There's been a lot of change, right? Nothing's perfect, but what is it that you believe you have that's not being implemented?
There has been accusations or convictions administration after administration since Gibson. And I think that's because our government, the way it is now, the last time it was updated was 1950s. And that's when we would say the mob had a lot of influence over our local government. And I felt like that same culture and system has continued administration after administration. And that culture right now is breeding a lot of mistrust between City Hall and the residents, because a lot of residents feel like decisions are being made in the dark. Like, so for instance, we don't know how City Hall is spending public money.
Okay.
But in New York City, they detail every expense so residents can see.
So transparency.
Transparency is transparency is the most important thing, I think, right now, because now City Hall is saying that they're solving all these problems and how our quality of life is getting better. But residents that I talk to are saying, heck no. Interesting. So there's a gap between the information that City Hall is putting out and residents receiving that information and believing that information. So our residents are not civically engaged. 92% of residents either didn't vote last election or they didn't vote for the current mayor.
Yeah.
So the current mayor only won with 14,000 votes out of 165,000 registered voters. And that's because the trust is missing. So the one thing I would say, full transparency. So one thing I want to do when I'm elected is live stream as much as I could. Live stream how decisions are being made, live stream meetings, just so residents know that they feel part of this new form of government that I'm trying to bring in, which is just very clean. And I think Newark being the biggest city in New Jersey, we can help spearhead that clean government movement and influence the rest of the state.
Right into my next question. Perfectly is, right, so only a very small fraction of people vote. Only 8% based on the math that you gave me, that 92% of people stayed home.
Or they didn't vote at all.
Or they didn't vote at all, right?
Or
how are you going to get those people to the poll? Like, what is your strategy? Not to give away your entire thing. Obviously, a campaign is about, working against another party to win, but how do you get those people out?
I just ran the city council race, and I did that by myself. I raised $3,000. $2,000 of the $3,000 was from Andrew Yang, who ran for president in 2020, I think. And then he ran for the mayor of New York. So I had $3,000. I ran the campaign by myself, and I got 12% of the vote. My opponent raised $150,000. They had the backing of the mayor and governor-elect, and they got 38% of the vote. So a lot of those people were people who just were not involved. So I got 1,200 votes or something. Like, a lot of those people just were not involved at all. Now I'm going to do the volunteer thing, where I'm going to get volunteers and get people to essentially help us and just continue to grow this movement. Because right now, like, it's a movement. It's not really about me. Like, it's still about me because I'm the candidate, but I think a lot of people that are coming in, they feel that even without me, this can continue because of the system and the culture that we're putting in place. So it's going to be really volunteer dependent, word of mouth dependent. And I think that's a strategy that's going to be different from what I did when I ran for city council.
Right. But city council and mayor is very different. So Ras Baraka is an incumbent mayor. He's been dug in for a long time. He's well known. He has name recognition. How do you unseat a candidate like that who's intending to remain, right? Like, most of the time that person goes. I mean, Cory Booker spent time doing huge marketing campaigns and things, and he lost the first election to Sharp. So how do you see yourself being able to actually accomplish that against a candidate who has all of the right, let's say, tools and resources in place to replicate, given that people aren't coming out?
Out of respect for you and your relationships, I think I should pass on that question. But if you just Google the things that this administration get accused of, I think it come down to us just putting people in City Hall with integrity, people who are kind, and people who are forward thinking.
Right. So I will say, we are a apolitical organization. We don't care who's in office. We need to work with anyone. I am not here asking you to slander the mayor or say anything negative about him, but I'm talking about from a structural standpoint, right? He has a base of people who support him. He's, again, been in office for many years. There's tons of development happening. Things have improved. And so I just trying to understand how our grassroots movement would be able to build enough momentum in the short period of time, given where we are today.
Let me just say this. Ras Baraka, he used to call Cory Booker a criminal. He used to call his people crooks. And now they're working together. And now, like, they're working together within the city. So if you do a simple Google search of Ras Baraka allegations, I think you would see what I'm talking about. People are fed up. There's people in City Hall who don't feel safe. So and this is me talking to residents. They are telling me the same way that Trump makes America feel is what the current administration make New Yorkers feel. And these are people who used to work with them. So I think there are a bunch of residents in Newark, given that low voter turnout, who just want something new. And then he ran for governor. More proof that, okay, you had different aspirations. And then every other candidate from Gibson, Sharp James, Booker, they say he got ran out. Like, once you go for governor, it's signed that, okay, you don't want to be here, right? Gibson ran for governor, Sharp came in, right? Sharp got in trouble. Cory Booker came in. And then Sharp was a senator too. So, right? So, like every time in Newark, when we have our leaders, they show bigger aspirations, it's usually a sign that we need something new. And I think this pattern is matching out perfectly with me as well, because that's my same message. Is that you had different priorities, and now it's just time to pass the reins over to somebody who truly has a vision for the city, and someone who also want to share more resources with like the people and not just a select few.
So what is that vision? What I understand that, right? The transparency, information, whatever the angst is that people feel. There's no perfect political candidate. You're always going to have detractors, but what is the vision that Jhamar Youngblood is bringing to Newark that's going to transform this community? Because one of the things I would say is I was at one of the community crime meetings, and murders are down, crime is down overall, right? While some people may feel unsafe, I don't know that that's the feeling writ large. So what is that vision that people should get behind that you're going to put out there to the community?
All right, let's just say in these past 2 weeks, I've heard of at least 6 different crime stories with videos that that haven't been reported. So I'm telling you, there's a lot of crime in the city that don't go reported, and it's because these bigger forces they are controlling like the narrative in our city. I'm not a Democrat, I'm not a Republican, but there's bigger forces out there that are controlling the narratives in our city. But my plan is to keep as much money as possible into our cities. So much money is leaving our cities, right? You keep that money in, and then you use that money to reinvest in our people. So I personally think we should build a public economy that rivals the private economy, because having our residents go out in the private economy to find housing, food, clothing, jobs, that's just tough psychologically on a lot of our residents. Like someone has to go and they have to code switch to try to get a job. That's because I've done it. I can only imagine. I've done it and I didn't like it. And I went to Ivy League school. I got the credentials. I still don't like it. I can only imagine what our people are going through. So my idea is to figure out how we can keep money in our community. So if there's women who spend X amount of dollars on beauty care products, how can we keep that money back into our community? Do we start a co-op where you have a group of Newark residents, they form a co-op where they have their own beauty supply store, and then that money is kept into our city, because so much money leaves our city. There's so many people in City Hall who do not live in Newark, right? There's so many businesses where the business owners do not live in Newark. So how do we keep money into our city? We also need to leverage our partnerships. We have Prudential, we have NJIT, we have all these resources there that we can leverage, right? And one of my ideas is going to NJIT, going to Prudential and saying, we want to build municipal software, right? Just different type of software that will help us operate our government more like efficiently. Once we master it here, we can go sell it to other municipalities, right? And then just do revenue sharing with NJIT or Prudential or something. But that's ideas we need to bring more revenue into our city. The more revenue we have, the more money we have to pay for programs, right? To give more back to the Boys and Girls Club.
We would like that.
You see what I'm saying? So it's just like, it's all about money. And if we just use our infrastructure and our partners to expand what public service look like, I think we can do it. And I think software is a way to go, because you can make so much money by building some software that can save a city $50,000, $100,000, $300,000. They would pay for that software. And then you use Prudential to help you scale that to different municipalities. You talk about tens of billions of dollars every single year just off software alone. Then we could do whatever we want with that money, man. You get what I'm saying? It's just, we need more innovative. Like we need more innovative thinking. And this is happening in China, where their mayors are responsible for increasing the GDP. And I think the way capitalism is going right now, mayors are going to have to be more responsible for bringing in more revenue into our city. I just don't think the current administration is thinking like that. Only thing we know, ask the federal government for money, ask the state for money, and raise property taxes. That's the only thing we know. That's not sustainable if we want to keep Newark natives in the city. We need way more innovation and way more outside the box thinking on how we bring in more revenue into the city. So that's what I'm saying. I think my ideas are sound. They make sense. It's just I'm up against the status quo right now.
So that's where we're going.
Yeah.
I have, right, fantastic idea. I've listened to a lot of different political figures, especially, at FDU during the race for governor. They had all of the candidates come out during the primary and then both of the eventual nominees. You're running as an independent. How do you pierce the veil, so to speak, of this two-party system that essentially is across the entire country and get elected in a city like Newark that's predominantly Democratic? Like, or do you believe that you can change people's minds to go into the box? And people think, right, most people just go in, they select all Democratic candidates, they're Democrat, and all Republican candidates are they're Republican. How do you do that in a town like this that's predominantly a Democratic?
I have some information or some perspectives to share with the viewers. Ras Baraka won as an independent. Cory Booker won as an independent. Newark is a nonpartisan city. 40% of registered voters are independent. They didn't turn Democrat until when? They had other aspirations. That's when they turned Democrat. Ras didn't turn Democrat until he wanted to be cool with Joey D, with all due respect, because Joey D is the Democrat that run Essex County. So that's when that's when people become Democrats, when they say, okay, I want more than what I'm doing right now. So Newark is an independent city, is nonpartisan, and 40% of registered voters are independent. They just believe that everything is corrupt and you can't take down a machine. Like, the foundation is there. It's just updating our resident zeitgeist and letting them know what's possible. Like, so many people just lost hope.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a constituency that has been told lies to administration after administration, and it's all different type of lies too. You got Sharp James. He was here, like Sharp James was the councilman for 16 years before he ran for mayor. So he was in the community. People know him. And then he had a yacht. I heard he had a purple Rolls Royce. I heard he was doing all types of crazy stuff. So residents are just like, damn. Then Cory Booker come in with all his outside capital and outsiders, and they tried to privatize everything in the city. So people are just like, dang. Then you had the activists come in. Ras Baraka, he got the old Negro spirituals. He getting everybody excited. And people see that all three of these mayors participated in the same activities, which is selling the city out. So with all due respect, this is a people-led movement. And I watched all of them. And I've seen their flaws. I've seen why people like them. And I'm saying, I think that we need to do something that is truly, truly democratic, and we give as much power to the people as possible. And I think we do that through software, by being just like innovative on how we share information with residents. Our storytelling, just everything has to be different from what it's been in the past. And I think that's why residents trust me, because like, look at my hair. I'm not like going in and like, everything about me is like, okay, it's different. And I think that's that's why residents are joining our movement, because they can see that I'm not trying to be like the rest of them. This is totally different. It's like, let's try something new.
Interesting. So let's ask this question. Let's assume that this grassroots resident focused movement that's going to center the community member works, and you get elected mayor. You mentioned and made the statements of the previous and current mayors of Newark, the most recent, that they've done things based on accusation. And we do know Sharp James was convicted of certain crimes and served time. How are you going to avoid the pull of those things? Because not for nothing, right? There's a system of our society that works a particular way, which you've mentioned. How do you fight against that and make progress?
Full transparency. I told you I want to live stream as much as I can. So it is like, the big thing I want to do is a dashboard. So imagine a public dashboard of all the vital information that you need to determine whether your quality of life is improving or not. Everything, government spending, jobs, salaries of city employees,
The budget meeting,
everything.
the meeting with the wealthy investor who's coming in.
Everything, right? I want to like literally, and then if I can't do it, I'm going to be honest on live stream. Like, hey, they didn't want to do the live stream, but here's a recap of what happened.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, Article 1, Section 2 of New Jersey Constitution says the people control the government. It's in the Constitution, the people control the government. What happened was these parties took it over because they know it's lucrative. So if I'm like just waking the people up and letting them know, you are my boss, it's not the other way around. I listen to you, I get feedback from you. And again, I come from the computer software world and where everything is talking to users, right? Testing, getting feedback, right? What works. These don't be my ideas. These be me listening to people and saying, I'm trying to solve your problem.
Right.
You know, so I think just taking that approach alone is putting the people first. And right. So it's not about my needs or my like ego or aspirations. It's about me getting things done. Something that's driven on like just like results.
Yeah. So let me ask that question.
Yeah.
I have something here, but I'm having a conversation right now. Jhamar Jeffries, former club member, ran for mayor from Newark. People didn't really know him well. They knew that he was around. But I think part of the challenge for him was Roz probably had better name recognition, had been in the community, well-known activist, out in the streets, doing the sit-ins, things like that. What has Jhamar Youngblood done, and what is he doing now that's going to create this energy, that's creating this energy that you're talking about in the community? How have you impacted people so far?
I returned 2015, didn't live full-time till about 2016, but I won a grant to build technology to help women and teens protect themselves from street attacks and domestic abuse. So I partnered with the city on that. A few years after that, I built software to help public school students connect with their mentors. So when everything went on lockdown during the pandemic, 15 public high schools was able to use that software to stay connected with their mentors.
Right.
Since then, I've been organizing, I've been mentoring, I've been sharing resources. I just hosted an information session, hosted 2 information sessions at the end of last year, teaching local Newark nonprofits how to properly go after grants and secure funding for their impact. So I've been around doing what I need to do from my 37-year-old perspective. Again, I'm 37. I'm not like how we give back and how we do things is different from how things was done in 1980s.
Right.
You know, like we have different skill sets. We communicate differently. So our value to our city is something that older people just can't comprehend sometimes because a lot of people never left Newark and they just think we have to keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over. And it's like, who's going to stand up and say, yo, y'all, that perspective is hurting our city. You know what I mean? So it's just like, we need to do something new. Every other city is doing something new besides us.
So what do you think young people need to understand about the future, what's coming, what they need to be focused on? Because to your point, you're saying, right, every time you come back, you're talking to some older folks, other individuals, they're kind of stuck in the past. But what are young people, what should they be focused on? If you're talking to a 13, 14, 15-year-old student right now, like what are you telling them?
I'm telling that 13 and 14-year-old student to compare rent from, or like talk to their parents and compare rent from when they were 5, and then ask their parents at that rate, what is rent going to look like once they graduate high school? And they're going to see that this is a city that Newark natives cannot afford anymore. And a lot of that is because resources are not allocated the right way and they're not allocated towards the right problems. So we have an affordability issue in our city where Newark natives are not going to be able to stay here. And then right now, our city is about 47% Black. That's going down. That was just like 54%, like close to like 10 years ago. That's going down. So this Black city under Black leadership that we all grew up to love and be spoiled by, that may not be here when you 13-year-old and 14-year-old go off and you graduate college and you think you're coming back to this beautiful Black city. It may not be like that. So I'm telling them to start thinking about what the city could look like if more of us get involved. We need younger people involved to save the city, because I think a lot of our elders are just out of touch with reality on what's going on throughout the world.
Right. So let me ask this question. President of the United States and Joe Biden, when the race was on, the two candidates, and now Mikey Sherrill, the governor-elect, myself with a bunch of other nonprofit organizations and corporations at Prudential, we were talking about affordability. How do you, with these young people, with this grassroots movement, what would be your plan for solving the affordability crisis? Because, right, these kids today, they're not having money next year to be able to rent a place or buy a home. But what is your plan to attack that challenge? Because it's a challenge not just here in Newark, but throughout the entire country.
Again, I think we need to build a public economy. And this is something similar to what LaGuardia, he was the mayor of New York during the Great Depression. And what you've seen happen there, they built public housing. They just expanded their public services. And they had the thoughts to say, local government should do more than what they're doing now. So they built housing. They built all these different services that just reimagine that connection between City Hall and the residents. We need to do the same thing here. We need to reimagine what that connection looks like. And I think it starts with us building a public economy, because everything is about economics. Everything is about economics. I see a world where you probably don't even need USD to survive in Newark, where you can just participate and grow in the city, and you get whatever that resource is that will help you go trade whatever you just earned, right? Like, it could be digital currency. We're like, yo, we need the street clean. If you clean this street or you help us clean the street, we give you this digital currency, and this digital currency can be spent at a medicine store, a clothing store, a food store, or your rent. So I can see people living in Newark without even having to touch the private economy. But I think this is the big type of thinking we need right now at the city, because we don't have anything to lose. The status quo is not going to get us anywhere. And if we're not thinking big, and if we're not being innovative, we're wasting an opportunity.
I guess my last question around this is, you become mayor. If you had a magic wand and it could happen instantly, what's the first thing you're changing? What's the second thing?
The first thing I would change is transparency. I would, as much decision making as we possibly can, I would share that with the residents. The second thing is, I think we can, to solve our housing crisis, I think we should just build up. Like, we should build up, right? Like you build up, and then under these buildings or whatever it is, you have all-inclusive services. So you have, it may be social workers, it may be a grocery store, it may be daycare, it may be job training, all on a lower level. But then you got housing above, where people can stay in these buildings or their communities to get everything they need that prepares them every time they leave the buildings. So that's my that's my
believe the software that you would implement that's going to generate the dollars, and how we can pay for that, as opposed to, which often happens around the state of New Jersey, raising taxes, because everybody's already at, well, how do we pay for these folks?
But again, it don't have to be software. Like, bro, think about all of the money that our residents are spending on school uniforms. We can't manufacture our own clothing here and just hire residents and then sell that same clothing everywhere. So it just doesn't have to be software. I think we just need to look and see, what can we build that we can make money from, and then hire Newark residents.
So some people might like, made in America.
Made in Newark.
Made in Newark.
I purchased NewarkClothing.com with the intent of having a city owned co-op, like half owned by residents, half owned by the city, made in Newark, where I'm going to wear every day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's going to influence other people to wear every day. Like why are we shopping at Rainbow?
Yeah.
Like, no disrespect to Rainbow, but if you can shop at Rainbow, you can shop at Newark Clothing. You know, so I'm just like, we need to rethink everything, water, everything. Can we produce it here in Newark? Because again, Newark was once that innovative capital of this area. We need to get back to that. We just like we don't have too many big thinkers in our local government anymore. And I think that's a shame given our history. So I think we just need to get back to dreaming big only because we don't have anything to lose.
Yeah.
Like we don't have anything to use. Dream big.
So these progressive ideas, right? And to your point, right? These aren't just your ideas. These are people you talk to, you know, places you've been, people you've interacted with. I would venture to say you're not the first person who said these things. How do we get the older generations, let's say the political infrastructure of the day, who, from your perspective, is not doing these things, to galvanize? Because I think, right, we can get residents, and then I think this could happen theoretically, but how do we actually get the entire ecosystem to transition to this way? Like, what is the selling point to them who potentially are making money, have their kingdoms and castles that they're engaged in, and they don't want to lose those things? So how do you also work with those individuals to make them see this better future?
You know what works? When I look them directly in the eyes and I say, you are from an era where people had integrity, where people moved as a unit, and people moved with sense. You know that's not happening right now. And you know it because you see it, but you know that you can't speak out because you would lose access to the parties, access to the capital, and access to the opportunities. So I'm challenging you. Do you want to keep doing something that you know isn't beneficial to the long-term health of our city? Or do you want to be brave like you once were in the 60s and the 70s when everybody was on coal and everybody had one agenda? And that works. I'm telling you, that works when I sit there and I look an elder in the face, and I say it every single time. I had elders that work for the city, that's a part of the city, and they say, I had a motivating and promising conversation with that young man. But they probably go back to doing what they was doing. But I'm telling you, it works. Right. I know it works. I know it works. We just got to get on cold. You just got to get on cold. So it's just like, these people are not dumb. They're not dumb. They see it. Everything that I'm saying, there's news articles about this stuff. And I didn't write it.
Right.
This is stuff that has been there way before me. I didn't write this stuff. I'm just the person that's brave to say, yeah, I said this stuff. Like, I know I'm not crazy.
Where did the bravery come from? Like, where did that desire and need to say? Because a lot of people, like you said, for a lot of people think it, they talk about it in their homes, in the corners, in the barbershops, in the restaurants, the club, wherever they're at, hanging out. Why are you willing to say, hey, these are things actually that are going wrong and they need to change?
Because the same way that we see these kids go shoot each other and they go shoot places up in public places, it's a sense of fearlessness that they have. Mm-hmm. These are people I grew up with. I have that same fearlessness, but I'm not about to use that fearlessness to hurt my people. I'm going to use it to just help my people. And again, the people that I looked up to, Fred Hampton, Malcolm X, right? Like these are the people that's my North Star of like bravery on how you speak up for your people. And I'm nowhere near close. You get what I'm saying? So when people be like, oh, you're so courageous, I'll be like, okay. I'll be confused sometimes.
It's like, fearful too, right? Like in order to be brave, you have to understand the fear or the things that could potentially occur when going down the path that they went.
But that's the culture that needs to change. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like that should not be happening in a Black city anymore. It's 2026. Black people are fighting Black people in the city. Like my biggest opposition right now is not white supremacy. It's Black people. And I'm talking about ideas that can help our city. And I get pushback from other Black people who have positions that they don't want to lose. So that's what we're up against. We're up against idiocracy. We're not up against anything else. So we're up against people who have a lack of courage because they don't want to speak the truth. And a city where like, this may sound too harsh, but like being an idiot is like accepted. I don't know where else that's okay. That's not okay in like the lab. Like, yo, can you imagine being in a lab and people not operating on facts and truth? You can't get nowhere.
Right.
So it's just like, why is that accepted here? Because manipulation, and we like being manipulated. That's the thing. We got to look in the mirror, y'all. You got to look in the mirror. The people run the government. It's not the other way around. The people run the government, but that concept, it just seems so foreign to people. Now it's just up to me to build those systems to make it easier for people to actually live in that idea that the people actually do run the government. And I think that's the responsibility of these politicians. But no, they want to keep you in the dark so they could do whatever they want to do. And we all know this. I'm not saying nothing new. That's the thing. It's like the stuff I'm saying, people like, it's so controversial. I'll be like, no, it's not. It's only controversial because I study how local governments operate around the world, and I'm speaking out on this stuff, and no one's ever heard it, I guess, come from someone looking like me or how I present it. I don't know what it is, but I don't think it's controversial at all.
You do mentorship. Our program is designed around mentorship. How important do you think that is for young people? And if you were mayor, or if you didn't become mayor, how would you continue to illuminate that for young people so that they have access to mentors?
Right now, what I see are kids being raised by other kids. I'm someone that spent a lot of time with my grandparents, just talking to them, just getting that insight that I didn't have. And a lot of times those conversations helped me fill in a lot of the gaps that I was missing in my thinking. So I think the fact that we don't have that much intergenerational relationship and it's not designed, I think that's what's hurting our kids the most. Kids on iPads, looking at other kids that's influencers that are kids. And then like you got other kids that's looking at other people that's rapping somewhere in a different state and they're influenced by that. Our kids are not influenced by our elders anymore. It's because a lot of our elders don't have the courage to speak truth to power. And again, no youth is going to like go and be like show respect or show love to somebody that they think is full of crap. Most of our elders, they just don't show or display the integrity that is needed to influence our kids.
So what do you think is the biggest challenge facing young people? You talked about technology, social media, online platforms. You talked about the misalignment or the disengagement of elders of quality to young people. Like, or is it one of those things, or is it something else, or a combination?
I think it's that. You can't be what you can't see. So if you are around adults with low integrity your whole entire life, that will probably be your outcome. So if the adults don't step up and show some type of integrity or show some type of example of what the kids could be in their future, they're just going to go off and do their own thing. Right? Because they're going to say, I know better because you have a lack of integrity. And I was one of them kids, but I was just lucky enough to have a mom that I really, 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 really respect and adore. And I always wanted to make her happy. So a lot of kids don't even have that. So the only thing that separates me and the rest of these and a lot of these children in Newark is my mom. It's because I respected that woman. Even to this day, like she's a superhero to me. So she was my example of the things I can do in this life. So I'm like, if I live my life like my mom, I lived a successful life. But I went on to do more things than my mom did. But that was my like my mom's lifestyle was my bottom because she always showed courage. She always had integrity. So if our kids don't see that, then they're not gonna have hope, and they're gonna be out there gambling and just hoping that their life would turn out. But one thing that the mentors do, they provide some type of roadmap. Right. And that's what my mom did. Yeah. She said, clearly dream, like you dream beyond what I was able to do. But my roadmap was, I seen how my mom lived my life. So if these kids do not have these people in their life with integrity that are audacious and that have courage, then we see what we see the products that we end up producing.
Right. So what do you see from an organization like Boys and Girls Club in Newark, what their role is for young people?
I think it's just to let our youth know what's possible, because a lot of them just don't have that context. They don't know what's possible out there in this world because they just live in the North. So I don't speak life into them, let them know what's possible, but then also allow them to go and experiment and try new things and find themselves. Like there's no box. Like there's no box just because you're a woman, just because you're a boy, just because you're a girl. Like there's no box on what you can do, especially coming from a city with so much rich history like Newark. Our kids should be dreaming big.
Yeah.
You should have all types of kids doing all types of things. Like that should be like the core of our kids. Let's just dream big. The same thing my mother told me, you could do anything you want to do in this world. That's what kids should be hearing every single day. In schools and after school programs, we should have signage. Like that should be a part of our zeitgeist here, that you can do anything you want to do and you can do it directly right here from North. With a school budget, with a $1.5 billion school budget, why isn't that the standard? That we have these resources where you can go out and do everything. And we right here next to New York City, where everything is happening. It's a 15-minute ride from New York City. Downtown Newark is a gateway to the rest of the world. Like, what the heck? Like, what are we? Sometimes I'm like, what the heck is going on? We have all these resources, but why is our story still the same story from the 1960s? It's because a select few people continue to win while they keep preaching the story to our people about all these other things and slavery and racism and all that stuff. It's just like, yo, we need to update our zeitgeist, guys.
So you think that conversation about slavery, Jim Crow, the challenges from the past, we know it happened, we know it occurred. You think we need to move beyond that?
Not move beyond it, just make it second. The first is corruption and resources not being allocated the right way. So let's just put that number 2.
Okay.
The first thing is we lack leaders who can combine intelligence, integrity, and innovation. That's what we need in this city, man. That should be the default. Especially we're in a Black city and the federal government is trying to do everything they can to erase Black history. We should be doubling down on our Black history right here in Newark. We should be doubling down and preserving that Black excellence, like real Black excellence, and like demanding that from our children, let them know where they come from. And that's just not happening. Every speech is just like Trump and a white man and all this. And I get it because it get people like anger motivates people to do things, but we need hope, man. We need hope. We need a vision. We need something that we can be happy to think about when we go to sleep at night, because we know the next day we get to take another step forward towards that goal. So that's all I think. And I think everyone knows it. It's just they don't believe that we can take down this machine.
This is the segment where I ask people if they have any questions for me, or is there anything you want to say to people, rehash a statement or whatever at this point in time as we start to wrap up? Because I think we said a lot. We really focused the conversation around your political journey, your past, how you've invested, how you've come back to Newark to try to invest. But is there anything you haven't said or anything you want to?
I do. Yeah. Like you are someone that's in a lot of rooms. Mm-hmm. Why don't you think like Black nerds or the Black people who call themselves the intellects have more influence over decisions in particularly our area? Why don't you think that's the standard and is more, I would say, the opposite in some cases?
I don't think people know how to build influence and how it works. I think a lot of people think that just being a part of the conversation is important, and I don't think they have a vision or strategy for how they want to move an idea forward, right? Like, so for me, I approach this work with, how do I create an environment where kids are building and producing things that could generate income, that could generate their future job for them today, and have that be the approach that we take. And the difficult thing with influence is it grows slowly. And if you don't already have power or money, they end up being engaged in an environment where they're working with other people's ideas and strategies and perspectives and moving in that direction. Now, that's not anything wrong with that specifically, but they don't actually try to create influence within that environment. They just seek to be a part of it. And so if they don't have a plan to take what they've learned through that environment and actually deliver something to the community, to business, to public service, then they're just a highly intelligent person who's part of a conversation. I like to be part of a conversation because, like I go around and I think, well, how are people doing things? How are they approaching things? But then I go back and I think, well, how do I want to approach things? How do I want to change things? And sometimes you can do that in a quiet space or in a place like the Boys and Girls Club and affect young people directly. Or you can take that publicly and start businesses and do other things that will allow you to have a different type of influence. I think the other thing is fear. And so if you look at, and I agree with you to a large extent, that people see what's going on and what's happening in the world, and they don't believe they can change it. Regardless of how intelligent they are, regardless of who their friends are, they don't believe that there's enough power within themselves, and they don't believe they can create a movement around what they're doing to actually push against it. Because it takes courage. But like I said earlier, when you have courage, you also have fear. Like Malcolm X is somebody that I respect a lot too, because you have to be aware of the threat that's coming for you, but still have the audacity, as you mentioned earlier, to proceed forward because you believe that the thing you're working towards is more important than your life. And if you think about it, I always use the scenario where, right, I think it was two people on those airplanes in 9/11 that took over a plane of hundreds of people. People are very inwardly focused and focused on what might happen to me. And it's very hard to get someone to turn over their life or their livelihood in order to pursue something that's going to shake up the status quo. And I like to use Jordan Peterson's statement that he made, and it's not going to be exact, but it's like, no one's going to give you anything. And so if you're not willing and able to be ready to go and deal with the other side of what is going to happen if you do that, then you can't pursue something difficult. And I think that's what keeps people from gaining influence because they're intelligent or they have influence or they know someone. Because I always like to use television connections where you see someone like Cersei Lannister in the Game of Thrones. Her power was derived from her father. And so when he left, she lost all of it until over time, and she was a tyrannical mess. She was able to create scenarios in which she destroyed people with violence in order to gain power, which was her being queen, but it was a shaky power. So she didn't have enough love and enough connection, where he had built that power over time through various means, both using harsh methods, but also using tact and strategy. And so I think that's a large part of why people are unable to build influence in environments where they are operating that may be around influential people, because they don't have a plan for themselves to do it in the first place.
All right, one more question real quick.
Sure.
Why haven't you ever thought about running for mayor?
I like being right here in Annapolis. Like one of the things I think about personally is that being in politics is about being within a system. So in some ways, in some respects, you go into a system and lose power because you have to still operate within the constraints of a rule book. And not that we can do anything or I can do anything illegal. I also think about the expectation of performing against a certain kind of thought process or what other people want to think, right? And so politics has been interesting to me. I've always paid attention to it. I always thought about it, but I don't have an interest in necessarily holding a political office because I don't know that I'll be able to do exactly what I want. Some of the things that you're talking about are very progressive ideas that I think people will fight against. And I think there are other avenues to do it in, I would say, for lack of a better term, easier way that doesn't have to create me trying to systematically break down, the hundreds of years of history of the political infrastructure, or let's see, even structural government. Because there's a lot of nuance to things and why you might continuously apply to federal funding. And we see, right, the challenges of that when the administration changes those effects. And so for me, it's let me try to do it from a private perspective as a private citizen in this organization. And the reason I'm here in particular is because I have a certain kind of affinity for this organization and the community that I'm in. So I've thought about it. People have said it, and I've given it some thought, but I've never had the desire to run for political office. Not quite yet.
I just want to say one last thing.
Sure.
Many of these laws have not been updated since 1954, and it's 2026. So the most noble thing any Newark resident can do is try to help us update these laws.
And I'm not a Newark resident either right now.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the other reason. Not to say that I would have, but I moved from Newark when I reconnected with my wife, who's also a former club member. She lived in Cherry Hill. I lived there for 5 years. And then we came back up and we found a place in Carteret. So I couldn't legally run from there. But no, I mean, it's people have mentioned that to me, but I always think about what politics is presently. And now, especially now having a wife and kids, like,
it's different.
Do I want to deal with that? Do I want, people to be digging into my past?
That's another thing. I am a single man. I don't have children. So I'm 37. I have energy, I have the energy that's needed to be out there in these communities and motivating our people, like talking, connecting with our seniors. And
absolutely.
So I have the energy. That's why I think right now at this point it makes sense. And we elected Cory Booker, an outsider, at 36 years old. Like, come on, Newark.
Come on, Newark. But I think that's a testament to that. I think Newark will rally behind somebody that, eventually I think people believe that to a large degree he was authentic. I think he lived in a community in one of the most, in some ways dangerous neighborhoods in the public housing high rise at the time. And was like, look, I'm here to be a part of it. I think the challenge for him was that I believe he had aspirations of, going into the Senate and running for president. The moment he got here, he's a highly intelligent person. He had all the right connections. And I think he wants to affect, a large swath of the population across the entire country. But being an outsider isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's, do you have the best interests of the people at heart? I think by and large he did. I think he was up against a lot, but he was also, to me, I think it was unfair how people wrote him, right? Because it's important that Newark is on the national stage. So it's great for him to do Oprah or to do the Today Show or anything else like that, because it puts people's eyes on what's happening in the city. So I applaud him for what he did. And there was a lot of development that happened that people are benefiting from now. Is it perfect? I don't think so. But that's the challenge of politics, is that you can never please everybody, because a legal decision always has a ripple effect for someone unintended to be harmed. And I think that's what sometimes people forget, is that when you make a policy, you design something, it's for the masses. And sometimes some of these laws and political actions fit a specific demographic. Like when we make rules for farmers, it's just for the farmers, and it's not necessarily going to benefit other individuals. Should do that for the farmers because they have challenges that have to be addressed.
But what happens is they make rules for the farmers without talking to the farmers. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm trying to say, is that you gotta try to talk to the people. You gotta have them at the table coming up with some of these things. One last thing, I'm working on a documentary and I'm gonna release it this weekend, where I go back and I trace the political history from when Lenape was here and the Puritans came. Then Halsey was our first mayor. A lot of people don't know Halsey Street is named after the guy named Halsey. Freely Eisen, it was overturning. So I'm sharing all this context with residents. I would love to share with you.
No, absolutely.
When I release it. It's pretty cool. Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody should learn as much as they can about Newark. Let me know. You have anything else you want to share with people, a message you want to get out?
Check me out. My website is Jhamar, JHAMAYOR.com. You can see my plan. You can see my background, my ideas, and you can also see my plan to make Newark a fully transparent and self-sufficient city by the year 2030 by going to newark30.org.
Thank you all for watching. As a disclaimer, as always, we'll have it at the front of the video. So we do not endorse any political candidates. As I said before, we're an apolitical organization. But we do like to bring on Newark residents, Newark natives, individuals doing things in the community, and talk to them about why they're pursuing the avenues that they're pursuing, what's driving them, why they've made the decisions that they've made. And Jhamar Youngblood is indeed that. He is a young 37-year-old from Newark with aspirations to be mayor. He's run for city council. He believes that we should be focused on residents, that the government can change and do things differently for the benefit of young people and all those here now from the past and going forward. And so I think that is a noble endeavor. I wish him the very best on his endeavor, and anybody that does anything positive to affect the Newark community is a friend of mine. So we'd be more than happy to have you back at the Boys and Girls Club to talk about young people, about your entrepreneurship endeavors, as well as civic engagement, because regardless of who you agree with, who you ultimately choose to vote for here in Newark, the state, or the country, you should be engaged in civic activities to improve wherever it is that you live. We wish you the very best and hope that you continue to tune in to the great future forward here at Boys and Girls Club Newark. I'm your host, Ameer Washington, signing off. Bye.